this is Kamran. As part of this seminar, we are going to discuss the following topics: basic concepts on Python, loops, if, while, and etc., basics on functions, and basics on file handling. So now, let's begin with our first topic, that is basic concepts on Python. First is why Python is so popular. So actually Python is an object-oriented language. It is an interpreted language, that means it is scanned line by line, and it is complete in its own. It can also be termed as a general-purpose programming language. Let us now move on to the other topic, that is tokens. Tokens are the smallest individual unit in a program. Now they can be further classified into 5 types: keywords, identifiers, literals, operators, and punctuators. We are going to study about them in the later slides. The first token is keyword. So keywords are the reserved words in Python, and they hold a special meaning. On your screen, you can see a partial list of them. You can pause the video to take a screenshot or note them down. Now there are identifiers. They are the names given to the different parts of the program. They can be the name of variables and etc. There are 2 general rules of defining them. They cannot start from any number or special character except for underscore, and they cannot be keywords. On the screen, you can see a list of escape characters. These are quite handy while programming. The 2 main escape characters here are /n, that is for new line, and /t, that is for giving horizontal tab. Loops and statements. Under this, our first topic is if. If statements are used to execute statements that are based on conditions defined by the user. On the next slide, we have an example that will clear your concept out. Then we have the for loop. Under for loop, there are 2 things to say. It can be used to put any sequence in a loop. In the first example, school, under list, principal, PGT, TGT, PRT. For SM in school, print SM. That means all of the constituents of the list will be printed out. Or it can also be used to put any range of numbers in a loop. Using the range function for I in range 1 to 101. In the range function, the maximum value is taken as maximum given value minus 1. So it will print from 1 to 100. Then there is while loop. It is quite important. While loop is a conditional loop. It repeats the instruction until the condition remains true. It first checks for the condition, and if it is true, then it allows for the loop to continue. With this, we have revised the topics under loops. Now moving on to the functions. Functions are used to divide larger programs into smaller units. Following are the advantages of using a function. First is program handling gets easier as a big program is divided into several functions. Then there is a reduced line of codes, as one can easily reuse the codes that are defined earlier, and they can be easily updated in the statements. Python allows us to define our own functions using these guidelines. First is the keyword def marks the start of a function header. The function name must be unique and follows the same naming rule as identifiers. They can take arguments in the defining phase, but it is optional. A colon mark is required at the end of the function header. They can contain one or more statements to perform a specific task, and a return statement can also be added. Finally, to execute a function, it should be invoked. We will see all of this in the further slides. In the first 3 statements, we have defined the function by giving specific parameters in it. And in the last statement, we have invoked it by using its name. Parameters are the values that are provided in parentheses when we write the function header. That means they are the values given while defining a function. They are also known as formal arguments or parameters. Now, an argument is a value that is passed to a function while invoking it. It is that value that is present in the parenthesis of that function. They can also be known as actual argument or parameter. Here, a is local to the function as it is defined inside of it, and it cannot be defined from outside of the function body, whereas L and B are global to the function because they are defined outside of the function body. Scope means the part of program that is usable or accessible in that area. There are two types of scopes. First is global scope and second is local scope. Here, A is local to the function as it is defined inside of it, and it cannot be defined from outside of the function body, whereas L and B are global to the function because they are defined outside of the function body. Let us now look at the leg-B rule or the LEGB rule. Using this rule, Python sees the convention for scanning a value. First is local, then enclosing, then global, then built-in. That means Python will look for the value first in the local scope, then in the enclosing environment, then in the global scope, that means outside of the function body, and finally in the built-in, that means inside of Python, that is predefined. With this, our topic of functions is complete. Now let us have a look on file handling. Under file handling, we have three different types of files. First is text file, then is binary, and the third one is CSV. Now, it is important to differentiate between text files and binary files. Under text files, each line is terminated by a special character known as EOL or end of line. Whereas in binary files, there is no terminator for lines. In text files, the file is stored under .txt or .docx format. In binary files, they are stored in .ben or .dat files. Now let us have a look on file access modes. I will give a brief overview on these. R is used for reading file. W is used for writing in a file. If the file does not exist, Python will create this for the file for us. Then there is A, which stands for append. Append is similar to write, but the data previously entered is not overwritten. We have R+, that is read and write. Then there is W+, write and read. Both of these are similar. In the W+ function, the file mode, the file is created if it does not exist. Then finally we have A+, that is write and read or append and read. Python gives us three ways to read from a text file. First is using .read. It reads n number of bytes and returns the entire file. Then there is read line. It reads n number of lines. Finally, there is read lines. The difference between read line and read lines is, in the latter function or the read lines function, all of the elements are returned in the form of a string. You can see the code structure using this example. Further on, we have the slide that explains the write function in data file handling. Thank you. These were the topics that I intended to discuss today.